Hey friends, welcome back to the Homestead. We're actually driving into town right now to pick up some parts for some stuff that I got to take care of, and I just thought I'd use this time to maybe rant a little bit about some things that I've been thinking about and mulling over in this little noggin of mine. It's interesting, to say the least, living in these times. Sometimes disheartening, sometimes terrifying, sometimes confusing. It's easy to get overwhelmed and disheartened, especially when you don't really have a good understanding of what's coming next. And there's no way to know what's coming next because everything is so up in the air. It is disheartening and it can get discouraging and even depressing at times, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to navigate the uncertainty ahead of us? How are we going to navigate, where we're going and how we're getting there, and getting there safely and assuredly and intact. And one of the things that the Bible says is that where there is no vision, people perish. To me, what that means is without a clear and defined understanding of the future, of what the vision of the future is, and people lose hope, people lose interest, people get distracted by the things that are all around them, and they tend to spiral into a uncontrolled self-destruction. And I think that we see that in people's lives all around us, where somebody has lost hope and their lives just fall apart all around them. So one of the things my wife and I have been talking about recently is, what is our vision? What is our ultimate goal? What is that far off distant point in the horizon that we're looking to move forward to? And I tend to speak in large and lofty terms when it comes to things like that, and very vague and non-specific, nondescript, because I'm trying to capture and get a glimpse of the overarching vision, not the how to get there, but the what's that point? What does that point look like? What is that big picture item? And it tends to frustrate my wife because she's very detail oriented, and she likes to focus on the what are we doing right now? What are the steps? What's this step? What's that step? And I don't usually work that way. Usually I kind of figure it out as I go, and I have a hard time articulating what's the next step for us right now. But what I can do very well is see something off in the distance, somewhere that we need to be, somewhere that we need to go to, and I can say that's the point that we need to get to. Now let's take every step of our path and point it in that direction. And so one of the things with the homestead that she and I have both agreed on is that it's more and more and more necessary to be less reliant on our well-being being in the hands of others. Now, that's a very big and lofty, very vague terminology. And it's very vague because it kind of encompasses a lot of different things in my mind. I have a full-time job, and I enjoy my job. I love working with the people that I work with. I love doing the things that I've been doing. It's a career that I've built ever since I was in high school and before then. But more and more and more, we're understanding that we are heavily relying on my company's well-being to provide for my family's well-being. And so if a decision is made at my company that affects it long term in a negative way, then that affects my family in a negative way. away, and then I have to go and look for another company that I can then work for and bring an income for and have our family's well-being taken care of. There were some very, very lean times in this past month, or in very, very lean months in these past years that we had to go back and survive on some of our savings to kind of get through. And luckily we had a number of things stored up and savings put forward so that it could kind of span us through the lean months. But it definitely opened our eyes to see that, okay, we are very heavily reliant on my job. And that's not a bad thing, except that when things are so up in the air, you never really know if that job is going to be there in a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road. The other thing is, we are very heavily reliant on grocery stores. Now we try to mitigate that as much as possible by purchasing things in bulk and trying to buy like a month's worth of groceries at a time. And we just went to Sam's, the wholesale grocery store, and bought our month's worth of groceries yesterday. It was the beginning of the month, and we said, hey, this is what we need. But food prices are going up, and astronomically. Buying groceries is becoming more and more expensive, and I don't see an end to that, especially with supply chain issues. There's a lot of things that we usually buy that were not on the shelves. They were not there. They didn't have any bread or buns that we would buy in bulk and freeze some so that we would have it throughout the month, but they just didn't have any. And so it's clear that things are becoming more scarce, and we're going to have to be less reliant on grocery stores having the things that we need. What that means is, making more of our own food in-house, and we can do it. It's not something that we don't know how to do. It's just something that, for convenience purposes, it's a whole lot easier to go and buy a $1 loaf of bread than it is to, get up in the morning and make a few loaves for the week and, store those and keep those. And it's the convenience thing. But I think that more and more we're realizing that we're going to have to set aside the convenience for the time being, because we have to be less reliant on others. We have to be less reliant on the grocery store. Lumber prices have been through the roof. They're starting to come down, but it just reminds us how volatile things are in the world. And at any given moment, any number of things. Gas prices could go through the roof. Lumber prices could go through the roof. Food prices could go through the roof, and basically prohibit us from being able to adequately afford those things. One of the things that we're also looking at is our own security, and I'm very security minded and focused. A lot of that has to do with electronic security, surveillance, notification, but also personal security. And my wife and I, we have firearms. We have them in the house. We carry firearms, and it's to me, it's becoming a growing concern. I read a report that murders and violent crimes were up like 29 or 39%. I think it was 29% in this past year. And I mean, that's because people are scared. People are desperate. People don't know where things are going, and they don't know what their next steps are. And when you mix desperate and scared, you get crazy things happening. There was terrible event that happened just a week or so ago with a man that was fired from his job at a grocery store and ended up ending very tragically. And if you're keeping up in the news, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to be careful because, again, a logarithm can kick out something and then flag you, and then all of a sudden this little extra, enjoyment that you're getting out of a social media platform, you're now banned from because you said something stupid. So, you gotta be careful with all this. But anyways, there was no need for that to happen. But it happened, and it happened in a tragic and devastating way because people are scared and they don't have hope and they don't have assurance of what tomorrow is going to bring. And it's causing violence and pain and suffering because there's no other options for people. There can be other options, but people see it as no other option. And so taking personal responsibility for our own security is a high priority. And what that means to me is not stockpiling a bunch of things. It means training and practice and getting familiar with situations, being aware, practicing being aware, practicing being alert, looking at people's hands when you go into a store, looking at people's body movements and demeanors. Is somebody walking with their chest puffed up and leaning forward with their hand at their waist? Are these things popping little red flags off in your head so that you can be positioned in such a way that you can keep yourself and your family safe? To me, personal security is about awareness and about training, and it doesn't matter how much stuff that you have piled up or in the closet or in a safe somewhere. If you're not aware of what's going on around you and training and practicing and putting yourself in a situation where you are confident to use those things, then it's not really going to do you any good. And then past that, being less reliant on other sources for your well-being, to me, means being more reliant on people that are close to you and in similar circumstances and have similar mindsets and similar goals. Instead of being reliant on the auto shop being available to fix your car or change your oil, maybe you build up relationships and a group of friends that, maybe some of you have skills in the automotive industry, and you can say, hey, can you come in and help me fix this, water pump on my car? Hey, can you come and help me out with adjusting the spark plug gap because I don't know what I'm doing. Stupid little things like that sometimes we take for granted when it's just convenient to bring the car down to the shop or bring it down to the dealer and have them fix it and then pick it up the next day and it's all done. And we're no wiser for doing it, but it's better for us. But I think long term, we're going to be suffering. But if we can connect with and rely on a close-knit circle of friends and building those relationships that, it can be any number of things. I mean, hey, we need help bringing in hay, and we'll get out there and toss some bales around for you because we're there for you, and we know that you need something, and we know that you're there for us if we need something, and it's called a community. So we have an amazing community around us. We have some really good friends that we would definitely do anything for. But I think that part of this not relying so much on others for our well-being probably means that we need to double down and build more reliance on each other in our community, because no man is an island, and there's no way that I could possibly do everything alone and by myself. I'm gonna need a support group, a group of people around me that would come at a moment's notice and say, hey, let me help you out there with that. I heard you were struggling with your tractor. Let me see if we can pull it out of the ditch or what have you. So that's kind of my thought process, and I'll leave you with this. When I'm mowing the yard, if I'm focused on steering the mower and keeping it straight and trying to keep that steering wheel as straight as possible, you look back at the line that I've mowed and it's all over the place. It's curved here, it's curved there, and you're like, I was keeping it so straight. I was focused on that steering wheel, keeping it so straight. But when you remove your focus from what's right there around you, when you remove your focus from the steering wheel that's right in front of you, and you attach your focus to a distant point, it doesn't even have to be a point that you're gonna mow, but a distant point off on the horizon. You focus on that point and you head towards that point. And you don't take your eye off that point, and you don't look at the steering wheel, and you don't focus on, where the mower deck is going, but you focus on that point. When you turn around and you look at your line, it's perfectly straight. It's perfectly straight because you're focused on a vision, and you have an understanding of where you're going, and you have an understanding of not how you're going to get there, but that you're going to get there. And all the other little things, all the other minute details, all the other micro adjustments that have to be made are made quickly and easily. And so when you're off the path just a little bit, you're right back on the path just as quickly, because you're not focused on keeping your steering wheel straight. You're not focused on the what's right in front of you. You're not distracted by the fact that there's something in front of you and there's a problem right here and now, but rather you're headed towards an end goal, and it doesn't really matter what happens around you as long as you can make those adjustments to hit that end goal. That's kind of what I'm getting at with our life. And instead of looking at all the circumstances around us, look at what our distant, far horizon point of reference is, and then allow life to happen and make minute adjustments, but keep on pressing on towards that. Well, I am at the hardware store, so I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching so much. This was a little bit of a rant of sorts, I know, but if you found this video informative or entertaining in any way, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. See more of what we've got going on the Homestead. And I'm gonna get in here and get some parts, and then get back home and get to work. Thank you guys. See you on the next video. Bye.